Lots of people want to be day camp directors, but most people don't realize that it's possible to actually start a day camp from scratch. Today, we'll be talking with Corey Kalman, who started a franchise of sports camps in California, and we'll bring back our buddy Mario, who started a day camp this past summer and lived to tell about it. This is the Day Camp Pod.
This is the Day Camp Pod from Go Camp Pro, bringing you the best ideas, strategies, and discussions in the day camp industry. You can find our show notes at daycamppodcast.com.
The Day Camp Podcast is brought to you by CRS, Commercial Recreation Specialists, your go-to source for recreation solutions that will ensure that your camp thrives. Explore their website today at CRS4Rec. CRS is serious about fun. Scheduling shouldn't be so difficult and take as much time as it does. Come check out Camptivities to learn all about their scheduling tools, and they're specifically designed for camps by camp people. Save time, get rid of the mistakes, and get back to enjoying your summer. Find out more at camptivities.com. Let me tell you about CampMinder, the #1 camp database in the world. It has the most robust offerings of service features found anywhere. Every feature works together to create a full, seamless system that helps your camp office run more efficiently while giving your camp family state-of-the-art communication and financial tools. Check out the details at campminder.com.
Welcome back to the Day Camp Podcast. I'm Andy Pritikin, Director of Liberty Lake in the Philly suburbs of New Jersey.
I'm Sam Thompson from Crystal Lake Park District, Crystal Lake, Illinois.
And we are joined today by Mario and Korey, our California buddies. Although I just found out that Korey's from Philly.
So it's sort of, I've got that Philly background.
You do. And I was telling Korey, Mario and I were at the Wake Conference last week, hanging out with all these California people, and Wyoming and Montana and Colorado. Shout out to those guys. And it was definitely interesting hearing the perspective. A lot of smaller camps, certainly, like the ones that you guys have, and also just different stuff, right? I was sitting at a table with Howie and Kelly from the Camp Owners podcast, and we were talking about how it doesn't snow that much we're in the Northeast anymore, or even in Minnesota, like around Christmas time, because Kelly does a Christmas event at her camp. And these three ladies were sitting at our table from Schaefer's High Sierra camp at Lake Tahoe. And they were saying how they had to cancel their first 2 weeks of camp last June because of snow. So it's that kind of stuff you only hear at Wake. Oh, and Sam, I wanted to say, I was at the breakfast line getting my breakfast burrito, and this guy sees my name. He's, "Oh, Andy Pritikin. Oh, you did that podcast with that woman and Michael Brandwine." I was like, "Yeah, I guess Michael Brandwine has been on like 5 of them."
Right. So. He's scheduled for January.
All right. Well, we can't wait to have him back. So anyway, Korey, tell us how you got from Philly out to beautiful Los Angeles, California, and started your thing out there.
Not sure if we have enough time for that, Andy, but long story there. And I feel like I'm a longtime listener, first-time caller here. So thanks for having me. But yeah, I went to Penn State University, and after college, knew I wanted a big city experience. It was going to be New York or it was going to be LA for me, and took a real-world job out in LA. Just kind of left everybody I knew and everything I knew, and ended up in Los Angeles. And people ask me how, and I'm not exactly sure, but no longer in LA, now based out of Colorado, and happy about that. But it is also nice to have 70-degree winters. That's not bad.
Sure. So did you go to camp as a kid outside of Philly?
I did. I went as more of like an Ocean City, kind of go down the shore type person. Andy, I know you know about that, but I did do a couple of summers at Camp Quebec, which was an overnight camp.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. Which, by the way, also runs a side hustle day camp for the last few years, in case you're curious.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, in that neck of the woods, there's not as much competition. So yeah.
Right.
So how did you get the epiphany to start the Coach K camps?
So when I graduated high school, I started running basketball camps outside of Philadelphia in Conshohocken, and that became my summer job throughout college. I would have friends that would work at burger joints in different places throughout the summer, and I only actually had a week of work to organize this camp, and everything else was back end, making the phone calls, getting the lists, doing the cold calling, and organizing this program.
How old were you at this point?
I was 18. I was
That's
18 when
great.
when I
Formative stuff.
yeah, and so I'll never forget that first camp week because I was sitting with my dad and I had had a lot of jobs up to the age of 18. He was like, why don't you run a camp? And he was like, I dropped your sister off the other day and there were these two guys and all they had were 5 soccer balls and a soccer field. And I paid them $250 for the week. And you could do that for basketball. And I was like, that's not a bad idea. I think I could do that. And so I called my coach, a couple of my friends, and organized this camp. And that's quite literally how I started. So
That's awesome.
I'd always had that background through college. That was my summer job. And then when I moved out to LA to join the quote unquote real world, learned quickly that wasn't exactly for me and had this background in running camps and was driving through LA and it was January and 70 degrees and thought this is kind of new and drove by a school with these beautiful basketball courts and that were not being used. And I just stopped and walked in and said, I'd like to run a program here. And that's how I started in LA.
That's amazing. Take us through that a little bit though, because listen, there's a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, okay, who are not owner operator kind of folks. All right. They're working at places. They want a career in camping. They want to maybe one day be the number one somewhere and all that. And what I hear, and we've had a lot of podcasts about this recently, Justin, Jack Shot, et cetera, talking about how it's hard to get that next jump, right? And myself and a lot of people from my generation, well, you have to have the cojones to make these kind of introductions, to go out on a limb, to bet on yourself, right? To take initiative, to do these things. These things don't just fall in your lap. Most of the time you have to go out and get them, right? So, and I will always remember the story that Jack Shot told us about how he was talking to Scott Arizal about it. And Scott Arizal was just like, well, then just start a camp. Well, I don't understand. What's the big deal? Because I think a lot of people think that they see a place like Liberty Lake or some of these big private camps and they have this like picture in their head of this is what a camp has to look like, right? And that's why I wanted to have you on this podcast, because I think that I know that when Sam and I go to ACA National and we're doing our day camp roundtable kind of stuff, that the majority of the camps in the room are what I would call non-traditional camps, and that they're actually more normal. Non-traditional camps are more normal than quote unquote traditional camps, which are more almost like a specialty camp in a way, right?
That's true.
So all right, so you go into this school and then they say, all right, well, we'll ask the superintendent, then how does it go?
Yeah, funny enough, the principal at that school was at my wedding. And so call it luck, call it what you want, but they were an advocate for me. And they helped me sort of navigate, in this case, Los Angeles Unified School District, to get the permission and get all the things in place to be able to offer this program. But once you dial that in, I believed in myself and I knew that by operating these different programs that will spread. That's what happened. I have a vivid memory of one of our main schools in LA and walking into the main office and saying, I'd love to see the principal. And they said, well, she's busy right now. And I said, that's fine. I can wait. I just sat down. 2 hours later, they're like,
Like
if
a
you still want to
movie.
meet it, you want to wait? And I just waited, right? And eventually they had to get me out of the office and they met with me. And that's how I started at that school. So I was pretty hungry and pretty ambitious when I was out there.
So tell us what that first summer was like.
In Los Angeles?
Yeah, at that, yeah.
Well, so I started in a roundabout way in LA. I started with running after school enrichment classes, which were very popular. So I'd run like an after school basketball class at this school on this day and an after school soccer class at that school on that day. And then schools started to approach me like, well, what do you know about PE, physical education? And I remember saying, well, not a lot, but here are my thoughts. This is what I think, because a lot of those schools don't have a set physical education instructor. And so I went in and they decided to hire me. And this is when I actually was like, okay, this is a company now. And now I'm servicing somewhere between 700 to 900 kids per week. Right. And so again, having that summer camp background, I was able, after doing some PE and having this school be super excited about the program, to walk into the principal's office and say, you think I could run a summer camp here? And so she said yes. And that's how the camp started. And it was pretty popular pretty quickly. But since then, we've started in different areas where we don't necessarily have those ancillary programs, and we're just
Mhm.
starting a camp from
Yeah,
fresh.
but you got a track record at least now.
Exactly.
So So, so in regard to that, right? So if you were looking to start in Boulder, Colorado, right? So what would you start doing? Looking at the various schools, like where's the empty courts? Like what's your sort of
We
mode of
are starting in
operation?
Boulder. Yeah, we're entering our third summer in Louisville, Colorado, our
Mhm.
second summer in Erie, Colorado, and this is now going to be our first summer in Boulder, Colorado. So we're going to have at least 3, possibly 4 locations in Colorado this summer, but it really is just finding the right person to talk to. In Los Angeles, it's really getting in front of the school administrator. Once the school administrator says, yeah, I would love to offer your program, then you work with the district. In Colorado, it was a little bit reverse. It was making the contact with the district first, and then the district saying, sure, we'll be open to offering programs here. Here are the schools that we can do it at, and saying, and looking into those schools and saying, well, we would love to operate at that school or this school.
Mhm. Well, and I guess just putting myself in your shoes, just like any business, right? It's the whole, I have what you need, right? Kind of thing, right? You said it yourself. These schools don't even freaking have PE in LA, which is nuts, right? And then these courts are empty in the summer. What are these kids doing in the summer? There's only so many actual camp programs out there, and there's tons of kids. So you have this product that people need. It's just a matter of then how do you get it in front of them, right?
Yeah, and it does require that persistence. And sometimes these lead times can be a couple of years to actually get in, but you have to just stick with it. And the way my ears work is until I hear a hard no, it's a maybe. I need a hard no to
Yeah,
stop.
it's
and
from the
let's start.
fundraising world right there.
I do before and after school in my community, and we got started. The superintendent was key. So I found the key person, and then he basically told the 11 schools they will be here. And that goes back and forth because superintendents change and whatnot. So getting yourself entrenched and finding the right people to back
Right.
you up is so important.
So how many programs are you going to be up to this summer?
Well, the hope is we're actually talking to a superintendent in one of the towns in Colorado that we really want to start at in Longmont, Colorado. But we will have at least 3, possibly 4 summer camp locations in Colorado. And we have, depending on the week, somewhere between 6 to 10 locations in greater Los Angeles area.
And now how do you go about, because I know from my experience, it's all about the who, right? How do you go about finding people to run these things? Because it's one deal, it's one part, okay, getting a contract to run the thing. But now you want to be successful. How do you find people like Mario over here in the box next to me? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I tried to recruit Mario. He turned me down. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I think that when you've been in this world for a while, you do know what you're looking for. And having been in the Los Angeles area for as many years as I have, we have a pretty long list of alumni counselors. And we often, or sometimes, we'll get into that situation where, like, wow, we're a little short on staff for this program. And so I just sort of go into that phone book and reach out 20 people that I haven't talked to in a while, and can recruit that 5 or 6 more that we might need to get us over to the finish line. But we recruit the same way that I'm sure many do on the different job boards. We run big group interviews because in this day and age, nobody even shows up to their Zoom interview. So we found it's way more efficient for an initial interview to schedule 5 to 6 at a time, and then we can set up that second interview as needed. And when you schedule 6 for an interview, sometimes 3 show up. It's rare that all 5 or 6 show up.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, no, I know a bunch of camps that do stuff like that, but it makes sense. You allocate this half hour or whatever, and then the person doesn't show up, and now you got a wasted half hour, right?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that's very interesting. So what is the typical? Are these week-long camps?
Week-long camps, yeah.
And do kids do more than a week ever?
They do often, but they'll often sign up for an initial week or 2 and then add on as they go.
Mm-hmm.
In our world, that's quite common, but we also pride ourselves on being available and accessible. And I hear these stories at these camp conferences of how these camps are at capacity in January. And I'm thinking to myself, I haven't even opened registration in January in many cases. So it's funny hearing you talk about the traditional versus the non-traditional camp.
Well, listen, Korey, it's about cash flow, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if this is your sole job, I don't know if you're on Robinhood at night doing investment banking. I don't know. But if this is your sole job, if you can get deposits early, if you can get people to give you a few $100 early, and that sits into the bank until you do open the deposit, that's why the camp started that way. But even before it was a demand thing, it was just, how do we make this a full-time job? We can't just wait for all the money to come in April or May. We'll never make it till April or May.
Yeah.
Oh,
I do appreciate that approach. And after the conferences, always move our registration up a little earlier every year.
Yeah. Well, it's a unique kind of thing. And being that it's a 1 week thing, I'm sure that parents want to have flexibility to sort of choose which week that's going to be, right? So in a typical venue that you have, how many weeks are you actually running at that site?
So for our core locations, it'll usually be 8 to 10 weeks.
Wow.
And we will have some sites that might only operate 2 to 3 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks, but we really shoot for that full summer and mirror the school calendar, that when school is out, camp is in. And when we approach these new schools and districts, the only thing I can ask for is an opportunity to let us operate. Let us show you what we can do, because once we get in there, we know that you're going to want us back. We know that the campers are going to want to keep coming. And so all I can ask for is that opportunity. And so it's nice to be able to stand on that reputation now.
Right. And then you're right. Just need the opportunity to prove yourself. That's it.
That's right.
And just because I just spent a week in California, I can't believe what everything costs, because it's it's literally like New York City. It's so crazy in San Diego. What does a week of Coach K's camp cost in West Hollywood?
Yeah. And this might surprise you, because when I moved to Colorado, I was very surprised that the cost of camp was the same or more than what it was in Los Angeles. But generally, you're going to be, depending on when you register, what discount, early bird you qualify for, somewhere between $425 to $500 a week for normal camp hours, which is 9 to 3:30. And then there's always going to be add-ons to add extended care hours or add field trips and that sort of thing.
Pretty good. I think I paid that for an omelet while I was in San Diego. So looking back, right, to your experience, right, and young Korey with the bright-eyed optimism who walked into a school and there was a guy at his wedding party, what advice would you give people who want to sort of break out and start their own thing?
I would tell them to follow your passion. And I really believe that I was so lucky to find both what I was really good at and what I loved doing. And so that was lucky to make that connection at an early age. But for me, it was never an option. This is the route that I was going, with the 7-month hiatus of having a real world job that only lasted 7 months. But at that point, I didn't know another option other than having a successful program and continuing to grow on those programs. So I think that if you follow your passion and you're excited about what you're doing and you're eager to do it, the money will follow that. And I've always had that philosophy. Even in our original programs for after school, we used to offer them for a really low price. And my thinking was, I'd rather have 100 students in this program at a low price than 20, because I know if I have that energy and that big program, they're going to love it and they're going to want to keep coming back. So that building something cool where people feel community, that I just went with that and let the business side follow.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And I think the after school program angle for day camp people is really an obvious one, right? Because schools need it. And if they can find somebody with energy that'll help run that thing, I mean, you're serving a purpose there and you're getting your foot in the door. And I know a lot of camps that run after school programs in Manhattan solely just to make connections so that they'll be talking about their day camps or their sleepaway camps elsewhere.
I'm starting a new camp this summer, so I'm just waiting for the guy who's in charge of the maintenance at the school district to tell me which other school I have this summer. So he's got till next week to tell me where I'm going. But yeah, once you get that relationship going, they've got the space, they want it to be used. It's the same kids that they have during the year. For me, we're both taxing bodies. So why are we reinventing the wheel when it's the same body?
All righty, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and talk about Mario's first summer being in charge of a camp. All right.
Scheduling affects every camper and every staff member's summer. It's easy to make mistakes. It takes a ton of time. Bottom line, scheduling is hard, and it doesn't have to be. Let Camptivities help you create a balanced, engaging schedule without the mistakes and without those long days and late nights. Camptivities does it all for day camps. Auto scheduling, camper and group scheduling, elective scheduling, manual adjustments, over 60 different reports, tons of customizable settings, and so much more. So don't wait until the new year. Now is the time to find a better way to schedule and save 15% on your first year. That's right, baby. The folks at Camptivities would love to show you the next big thing in camp. So get away from your desk and get back outside and play with the kids at camp. Go to camptivities.com. As a camp director, you're a leader of your camp and a pillar in your community. When your customers put tremendous trust in you, CampMinder's powerful management software tools deliver the day-to-day task support that helps you make every touchpoint moment memorable and every summer stellar. CampMinder has the most user-friendly platform for both your staff and your parents and is backed by a team of crafty engineers and customer service associates who are constantly thinking of ways to optimize your camp's database, communication, and financial management. With state-of-the-art app for your camp families and an API available for third-party softwares, CampMinder is always evolving elite summer camp software. Check them out today at campminder.com.
August
All
and
right.
September, I was going on runs and just listening to previous episodes. I think I went all the way back to season 1 when you guys had your like activity tips.
Yeah,
See,
I
you had
love
so
that
many great
part.
ones.
Oh, see, I haven't.
Yeah.
I'm going backwards. I'm
Yeah.
working.
Yeah,
my
you should
way
go
there. I haven't
backwards.
gotten there
Yeah.
yet.
Well, the
Yeah.
activity tips, the reason why we got, well, you know what? I'm going to go on the air with this and tell everybody this. Oh, all right. We're back. So the question during our little break was he told us that he's been listening to the oldest episodes where we used to have like actual activity tips. And the question was, what happened to the activity tips? And we were told that our episodes were running long, right? We're going over an hour and that you need to keep, and I don't know, when you listen to our friends at Camp Hacker, right? They have these really awesome episodes and then they sort of cut them short so they can do a little tip of the day things or talk about like the newest electronic thing or whatever. And it's like, I was so into the conversation, I didn't want to cut it off to talk about, oh, you should put dye in the water guns, and then it comes like, yeah, all right. There's Pinterest, there's all these other things that do that, and I've been
But-
focusing more on the people and the conversation.
But Andy, my forte was that. So I think we should do one whole episode that's just tip after tip, all
Just
different
tip after
kinds of
tip?
tips, like different categories, so that we
Okay.
can round them up again.
All right, we shall do that. All right, there you go, Mario. It's back for you.
Fantastic.
So the last time we heard from Mario, excuse me, he was a free agent testing the markets. And he had finished his master's and he was working as a consultant and he was dipping his toe in there trying to figure out what he was going to do. And then, we were at Tri-State and Mario's, I think I might have something kind of thing. And Lord knows he got thrown into a situation when did you actually sign the paperwork or say yes to this?
March 1st, 2024 was
All
my
right. So it's
first
AC
day
at
on the
National.
job.
That's what we were talking
Yep.
about. All right.
Yep.
All right. So why don't you take us through that, Mario?
Yeah, I have a long history in camping. I was a camper and a counselor, but kind of turned my back on that a bit to go into the corporate world, where I spent a bunch of time at Bain & Company in their New York office. And I was full-time employed there when I was last on the podcast here, but always had a passion for entering the camp space professionally and trying to figure out what the right kind of entry point was. Spent a bunch of summers visiting different camps and getting to know folks in the industry. I met Andy back at Tri-State in 2022, and I ultimately decided I wanted to be the director of a day camp. And I was really thankful for one of my early connections when I was looking at the camp space critically was Don Whipple. He and his brother Scott Whipple own the Mountain Camp family of camps, 4 camps in Northern California, 2 sleepaway and 2 day camps. And one of those day camps, Mountain Camp Marin, was just starting this year. And so for their inaugural summer, I had the ability to be the director for this camp and began on March 1st. And we had great summer 1 and excited to talk to you more about it. But that's kind of the short version on my story of getting into camping.
All right. So here we are. It's March 1st. Okay.
Mhm.
How many kids are enrolled at this point? Is it 0?
It's a little bit more than 0. We launched registration in February, and we had a fair amount of folks from the school that we partner with. We don't own the land. We have a great school partner, Mark Day School in San Rafael. And we had, maybe 80 kids, 75 kids enrolled from that school.
Now, but I want to go back to the beginning. So you get into this, they got a dozen kids signed up, let's just say. Okay.
Yeah, there's
What did you guys do? How did you get traction? Right. So
Yeah.
Korey's got the ability, he's going to a school, they can all hand out flyers in that school. Right. So he's got that at least going for him. And Korey, do you go to if you're having it in school A, do you go to the other schools in the area and give out flyers? Like how do you,
Absolutely. And I'm sure Mario will get into this. We've soundboarded each other on this a couple of times, reaching out to the PTAs, finding out what the local events are, certainly reaching out to the schools in that neighborhood.
Mhm. Yeah. So what were you guys doing at that point to grease the wheels, Mario?
Yeah, I was really focused on partnerships, marketing through like larger groups. So we struck a deal with Kentfield School District as well as San Rafael City School District, two public school districts in the area, to provide free and highly discounted camp to their teachers and employees in exchange for sending out emails to their families on our behalf, advertising our offerings. We collaborated, we created a heroes appreciation program where police officers and firefighters and veterans in the area could have a week camp for free and 50% off future weeks. And so connected with those local institutions and used them as voice amplifiers for this new program that we were establishing. And I think the partnership that was in some ways one of the most impactful was with Marin Child Care Council, a nonprofit in the area that works with families that are below the poverty line in efforts of giving greater access to childcare options. And so we had a fair amount of children from this group come and experience and love our camp, ask to sign up for more weeks. And that isn't one of our trusted partners that we're continuing to move forward with. And then I think the last partner is the Mark Day School themselves, in getting more and more students who already come to this location and have a great relationship and association with this campus, and then say, we are going to be able to do all these awesome new and different activities in a place where you already have a lot of familiarity and love for. So yeah, to grease the wheels, I was really thinking about who can we partner with.
Yeah, no, that was super smart. And along the lines of what Korey's saying, and along the lines of many conversations that we had. And I want to give a shout out to Adam Wallach, who when I was trying to grease the wheels here at Liberty Lake, he was doing the same at other camps and gave me a lot of great ideas at that time too. And who you got to work with.
Yeah, I'm going to amplify. Definitely shout out Adam Wallach. I was able to spend summer 2023 at Mohawk and couldn't ask for a better mentor and guide. He is a fantastic camp professional, one of the smartest in the business. I was just talking to him the other day, and he gave me a really great piece of advice on how to run our school auction program as we partner with these different schools and give auction kind of donations for their PTOs. He was suggesting, well, make it a BOGO, buy one, get one free, or a percentage off your second week. If you're trying to increase the length of stay of your campers, which is a high priority for us this summer, using these school auction channels as a way to do that is a prime way to do it. So shout out Adam for that great tip.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first few years, and it could be more than the first few years, depending on how long it takes to get it really going. These are things that, for whatever reason, a lot of camp people who don't think like business minded, right? They don't do this kind of stuff. And it's so important and so easy to do, right? The commodity that you have right now is space in your camp. You don't have a ton of money, right? You're borrowing from the mountain camp people and all that kind of stuff. So your commodity is space in camp. So yeah, I remember talking to Adam when we were doing camp fairs. He said, yeah, you do a raffle, a drawing. And oh, you get 20 people, you get a drawing. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to draw a winner. So everyone should win. You just give a winner to everybody. So I started making it that I would have a winner or two or three based on what towns they live in. Sorry, breaking the rules a little bit. But then I would send a consolation prize to everybody else and be like, oh, you got second prize, it's half price, and see what a good get for there. But there's no shame. There's no shame in this.
Absolutely not. I'm doing something extraordinarily similar. You sign up for our email newsletter. Those 3 short emails, information about camp, hear directly from your camp director, Mario. Running a raffle. People that sign up enter that for a free good camp. And the people that don't win the free good camp, they're also going to get some sort of promo or bonus. So shout out to anyone that's listening to this in the Marina area. Sign up for those emails. You're going to get an extra special.
Look, you go in to run, if you're running a camp, you go in to run a camp that's got no kids or very few kids. Okay. You have to, just like Korey was saying, right? you have to just trust that you got to just get a chance. He said, you need a chance. Give me these kids, even if they come for free. If they come back the next year and they pay, then it's worth it, right? Because think what it costs for a billboard. Think of what it costs for a stupid digital banner ad on some freaking website that nobody's going to see. You could just piss money away. There's no tomorrow out there in advertising. Your commodity is the space you have in camp. And reaching out to, like you said, the first responders and the people that work in hospitals and stuff. You know how many people work in a big hospital? I mean, literally could be like 2,500 people that work in a big hospital, right? In a big school district, like you said, same thing. Hundreds and hundreds. You're talking about the custodians, the secretaries, not only the teachers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're building goodwill and then they talk, right?
Yeah.
Because you're building in these little communities, right? So Korey was up there in Louisville, right? And if he has a successful summer, that's the best thing he could possibly do, because then they're just going to tell their friends and they'll sign up.
That's that snowball effect. Right. Once that
Yeah.
snowball starts going down the hill, it only gets bigger as long as you are executing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the best marketing is running a great program. And so,
Right.
you show them
Which
a great
is
experience.
exactly what I told Mario when he started. But
That's
it's a
true.
lot of pressure, Mario. It's your first summer. Okay. And I know, or whatever, 75 kids, you came from Mohawk where there's 75 kids in a group. And it's a lot of pressure, because you don't want to be one and done. Like, you want to be building, you want the snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
So what was it like as that first day was approaching and you're trying to put all your ducks in a row? I mean, yeah, I would think.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that it was so nerve-wracking was we didn't have like a crop of returning counselors, right? This is the first camp first summer this camp has existed. So we were certainly building the plane as we flew it. And so we're determining on the Sunday before camp, what are the traditions and songs that we are going to be singing during our morning gather, our spirited assembly, and how do we do the transitions between lunch and going to the pool? And one of the things that I had to really stress with our staff, and I'm really grateful for the way that this was handled this summer, was we are going to change and iterate constantly because we're trying to improve. We're not going to wait till next summer. We're not going to wait till next season or next week. We're going to make changes immediately to run the best program possible. And so I stole an idea from one of your earlier podcasts. We had a better board. We had a big piece of butcher paper on the back wall of our office, and anyone at any time could go and write something that could be done better at camp. And it wasn't like, oh, down the line. It was, what can we be doing better right now? And I think instilling that mentality helped reduce some of the nerves, because we knew day one of camp was going to be the baseline. It was only getting better from there.
I love that, Mario. And I think shout out goes to, Aaron Gluckstein, our first, one of the
Aaron
first
did that
hosts.
one.
I think that was his. Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to Aaron.
Great, because then too, they've got to feel comfortable to have some things that didn't work, because they know they can change it immediately and they're not going to live with it. So then you feel a lot freer to put yourself out there.
Right. And when I was before I started Liberty Lake, when I was at other camps and visiting other camps, and I'd say, how come they do it like that? Right. I had so many responses like, well, that's just the way that it's been done for the last 20 years. And my uncle did it that way. So blah, blah, blah. And so I had that same feeling, Mario, and I have this pin, which I'm trying to show, but my background is screwing it up. But it says, but we've always done it that way. It has the Ghostbusters like line through it. Right.
Yeah.
And I've had this since the first day I started Liberty Lake, because I never wanted to be one of those kind of places. I always wanted to be evolving. I never wanted anyone to have the answer that we do that just because that's what we always done. Because I always want to reinvent and make ourselves better. Growth mindset. And Lord, I yearn for the day where I could just run it back.
We'll never get there, right? It's always constantly improving. And one of the things that I found to work really well was when we like loudly highlighted, like, Sophia, thank you for that recommendation. Did you see how it showed up today in this way? Like, everyone like shouts out Sophia, and we were loudly celebrating anytime someone's feedback or suggestion made everything better. And it just created this positive.
Love that. Oh, I freaking love that. Don't ever lose that. All right. So Mark, so what was it? The first day of staff orientation. Okay. So here are these, 30 people, right? Show up, right? And there you are in front of them with your clipboard. Okay. How did it start?
I said, we're walking to the gym. We're going to play some games. I wanted
Yes.
to start the tenor with, we're here to have fun. I think the camps that have their counselors having the most fun and engaged deliver the best product to and best experience to campers. So I took us to the dodgeball court and I set up a game of dodgeball, explained how it was going to go. Intentionally was unclear in certain places. We played the game of dodgeball and then we said, all right, what went well and what could have gone better? And that type of framework is what we used all throughout training of what went well and what could have gone better. And something that I'm planning to add this summer to this kind of reflection is, why did we do this? And how can we use this, whatever this thing is, with our campers? And so that kind of layer of introspection or retrospection was helpful. But yeah, things started not necessarily with like awkward hellos and stuff. It was like, oh, I got you in the chest with the dodgeball and I caught this thing or whatever.
Hopefully it was
So-
the chest, not the face. Yeah.
Yes, headshots are out. Said no, can't burn it. You can't do that. We had some athletes too. We had a couple softball stars on our staff, and so people were really getting into it at the get go. And I think it really set a strong tone for the rest of our trainings. That like we're here to have fun and let that fun and positivity just kind of permeate and expand across all aspects of camp.
So out of these, I don't know, what was it, 25 people? I mean, seriously, right?
Yeah,
How many of them actually had ever worked in a camp situation before?
of the 25, 3 had, but that 3 came to for us for a total of 7 weeks. So we're talking super, super low had ever
Yeah.
worked in a camp setting. And so part of training was explaining what camp is going
Right.
to be. And that's such
Exactly.
a challenge, right?
Hell yeah.
I had to really think through the mentality of at camp we are going to do versus at mountain camp Marin, this is what we do. And I'm so excited for year 2 to have a lot of these returners. And we've got a lot of folks that have already reapplied to return either in same roles or in elevated roles, and establish here is how we do things. And let me model and demonstrate. In putting in a lot of effort is cool. It is part of our culture. It's better to have that established than me try to engineer that from the start.
Right. And growth mindset Mario over here, he finished his camp and then he literally came out and visited my camp. He
This
wanted
is
to
true.
see what
I
it
went
looked
on
like in
a
action.
visiting tour. Our camp ended July 26th, and I hit 4 or 5 different camps across the country just trying to learn. And I was so grateful for you taking the whole day and walking me through your awesome operation there at Liberty Lake.
The Day Camp Podcast is brought to you by CRS, Commercial Recreation Specialists, your go-to source for recreation solutions that will help ensure that your camp thrives this summer. Check out their inflatable aqua park courses for pools or lakes, the prime carts, the cool little go-kart things, the emergency alert and lightning detection systems. Whoa, the splash pads. Whoa, if you got the money for that, splash pads is the way to go with the heat we got. The Zoom Flume, a lot less money, and cool, talk about the most awesome order slip and slides that you could possibly get. The jumpers, okay, for bouncing all around the place, mini golf, the prefab cabins and pavilions and bathrooms, the shade structures. Lord, do we need shade structures these days? The shade structures cannot be beat. And of course, the playgrounds, including the ones with the cool musical components. Anyway, CRS Commercial Recreation Specialists, your go-to source. Explore their website today at crs4rec.com because CRS is serious about fun.
So I don't know if I told you the story. I think I did. So my first day at Liberty Lake, same thing. I had nobody that had ever worked at a camp before except for
Yeah.
Brandy, who's still here 20,
Shouts out Brandy.
24 years later. Nobody else had a clue. So what I did is as they came in and signed in, I was like, blue team, red team, blue team, red team. And they're like, what are we doing? I was like, don't worry about it. Just go line up, get in the amphitheater or whatever, right? And we did a color war. And that was my first day of camp because again, they didn't know what camp was. And I think when we say that to people, what are we trying to say? They didn't know what camp was. To me, part of that is they don't know how to let their hairs down and just be a goofball, right? I'm bringing in like the science teacher and this basketball coach and all that kind of thing. And I know how to coach basketball. And I know how to teach. No, you're here to have fun and with the kids and be a goofball and all that kind of thing too. And yeah, in the middle of the day, I taught them the Liberty Lake song, which I had written. And that was the color war song. So at the end of the day, whichever team sang the Liberty Lake song better, they got to go home first. That was their prize.
I love it.
But yeah,
I'm going to take a leaf out of that book for this summer. And my returners, they're going to come to training 30 minutes early unbeknownst to our new folks. And we're going to do greeting like we do on every camp day with loud music. We run to the car, we open the door. Good morning, Kabir. Welcome to camp. Come on in, get your name tag. And we're going to run it like it's the actual first day of camp, but it's our first day of training. We'll go in and do our AM gather and talk about, do our songs and do our spirit. And yeah, make it feel for these new counselors who are going to be the lifeblood. We're growing so much this year. We're going to have at least twice as many new folks as returning folks. Have them feel
I say
about
three
what-
times.
Yeah.
I say three times, Mario. So okay. So now it's the first morning of camp. Okay.
Mhm.
And now you're waiting for the cars to pull up or whatever, right? With the campers and all that kind of thing, and you're greeting them. Tell us what that felt like.
Oh, I was really nervous, right? Because people signed up, but you don't know if they're actually going to come, right? And in my doomsday head, I was like, oh, they're going to just wave the money goodbye, whatever have you. But people came, and there was this like face of like wonder and surprise as these campers and parents rolled through the car line, because we had all these flags, lots of young folks energetic and dancing to blaring music. And this is so different from what it's like to roll up to school. And most of the folks, especially in our first week, came to this school. And so it's, wow, this is a new and interesting thing. And so there was a lot of excitement. And when I saw the surprise, but like smiles on parents' face as well in that first day as they were rolling in, I'm like, okay, we're going to have some momentum. Things are going to go great. And it was a little bit of relief seeing those first couple smiles. But I was palpitations for sure.
Yeah, but like you said, it turns into a very affirming experience once you start seeing the smiles.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. So Korey, you'll appreciate this because Korey's originally from Philly. He's a Philadelphia Eagles fan out there in Colorado.
That's right.
Which,
That's
you know,
right.
the Broncos are good this year, but who would have thought? But so that was the big surprise for me, Korey, because I'm from North Jersey, right? So I'm a total New York fan, and I'm waiting for the buses to pull up that first morning, and they start coming in, and the kids start piling out. It's Iverson jersey, McNabb jersey, Chase Utley, and I'm like, where the heck am I? How did this happen? I didn't realize that there was a line of demarcation in Central Jersey that separated the markets so drastically.
You're getting everything, every college, every local.
Oh, and Penn
institution.
State. Oh, yeah. This
Of
Penn
course.
State, Korey. What is going on? It's like a cult.
There's a lot of us. There's a lot of us out there.
All right. So Mario, go ahead. One last thing, because we got to start wrapping it up.
I want to talk about when you're just starting off camps, the importance of doing things that don't scale. When you are small, what advantages do you have for that? And so, for example, I'm part of a one-man team. I ran all of our enrollments. And so I knew a lot of these campers' names and faces ahead of time. I did my homework. And so as I'm opening the door, and it's the first time I'm ever meeting young camper Pierce, I'm like, Pierce, welcome back to camp. It's so good to see you. That type of personalized touch really went a long way. And I think what was perhaps most powerful was on pickup on the back end. When the parents are lining up to pick up their kids, I'm walking up and down that line. And our camp is small enough, somewhere between 40 and 90 kids each day, that I knew something particular to tell each of those parents. Hi, Jennifer. This morning, Ashley got up and sang Little Red Wagon in front of all of camp. You should ask her about it. Or Jackson today got a bullseye. He's going to come back wearing his badge. Definitely talk to him about it. And that personalized touch with parents in that unique moment, one of the only impressions of camp between pickup and drop off, that was something that's awesome. And that doesn't really scale when you have 1,000 kids at camp at a time, or you're big enough that now you're running buses. You don't have those same personalized touch points. And so that was something that we were able to do while we had a smaller size, and it was really loved by our parents. And I push anyone that's starting a camp to think about what things can we do now that are small size benefits.
And Mario, you can translate that down. You just have to convince each layer of your directors and then all your counselors that now it's their turn to do that personal touch. So you can
Yes.
make it filter through, but you have to start the whole attitude. And especially when you're small, it's all you.
Right.
It,
But
it's so true, and it's such low hanging fruit. Like I think about the first summer at some of our new sites. Our directors didn't just know the names of the campers and the names of the parents. They knew the names of the stuffies. They knew the names of the blankies. They knew everything about these kids that really just made the parents feel like I am in a safe place. My child's being cared for. They're having a blast.
Yeah. It's a unique opportunity that you need to embrace the moment, right? you need to take advantage of it because, yeah, as you scale up, it becomes tougher and tougher. And like Sam said, it goes down to the head counselors or the division leaders or whoever. But for you to be able to have that opportunity, and by the way, it's not just about the campers, it's about the staff too, right? Because Mario, you hired everyone on your staff and you knew them inside and out.
Yes.
And that's a unique opportunity also. And I think when I first started working at a day camp, Skip Vickness was the director. And even though it was a big camp, I'm guessing there was 800 kids a day, he had this unbelievable ability, call it a bullshit artist if you want. He had this ability to make everybody feel important because he knew little things about you and your family and that kind of thing. And it came off as super sincere, and it was wonderful. And he was able to do that in a big camp with his important staff members and some of those tougher kids and all. So I think even though it, like you said, it doesn't really scale, Mario, like you could keep that aspect, remember that, right? That's really important as a business person, frankly, and to keep the legend going, right? If Mario, if you're sitting here like me 23 years later and everybody, oh my God, Mario, the camp director, right? Then you got to keep that thing going. Right? Where they would just be like, oh, Mario knew it was me. He knew my name. Like that stuff means so much to people. Like
Another fun thing with the staff, when you were talking about starting off playing games, one year I put them all on a bus and took them to a field trip. So they were the kids on the field trip, but it was going to be where they were taking kids later. So now they knew the logistics of the trip, but they had a great time together and really broke the ice. So love that.
well, all right. So let's make sure, Mario and Korey, that we got your camp's websites and information in the show notes so people can look up what you're doing. Korey, what's the overall website for your organization?
GotGameCamp.com.
GotGameCamp.com. All right. And then what's the specific website for your camp, Mario?
My specific camp is mountaincampmarin.com. We opened enrollment on Monday, so that's some exciting stuff. It's been taking up a bunch of time this week. And if you're looking for overnight camps, the other two camps in our family are Mountain Camp and Farm Camp. If you're in lower Bay Area, then Mountain Camp Woodside's our other day camp.
And like you said, shout out to the Whipples. Great people. Always sharing and caring. All right. We want to thank Camptivities and Commercial Recreation Specialists and Campminder. And of course, the folks at Go Camp Pro for allowing us to bring this podcast to you. If you like what you hear, you should subscribe to the Day Camp Pod on your favorite podcast platform. Check out the show notes from all our episodes at daycamppodcast.com, as well as contact info for the show, for Mario, for Korey, for me, and for Sam. Thanks for listening. Make yourself a better Day Camp Pro. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode of the Day Camp Pod.
The Day Camp Podcast is brought to you by Go Camp Pro and the Go Camp Pro Podcast Network. Find a podcast for camp professionals of every age and stage at gocamp.pro/podcast. Thanks for listening, friends. Hey, Camp Pros, we love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, we hope that whenever you share an idea that you learned from the Camp Hacker podcast, conference, summer camp professionals group, or wherever else, that you're quick to give credit where credit is due. That way, we can all encourage more camp pros to share the tips and tricks that will make camp better.